This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
Oh, what an attack! Whoa, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Everything broke loose. I mean, the floodgates opened up. And when that happens, you got to go to a system. You just have to simplify it, especially with a rookie right tackle and a second-year offensive guard who didn't really play last year, period. So when you put them in a position where you're asking them to block, the best player in the draft last year, even though he went number 2, the best player in the draft, one-on-one, and your rookie too, Jay Driscoll, that's a recipe for disaster.
That was Barrett Brooks, former NFL offensive lineman, Super Bowl champion, yesterday on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig. We only got an abbreviated edition of Game Night. We got Celtics-Heat coming up at the bottom of the hour right here on 97.3 ESPN. So you don't want to change the channel at all because we got NBA playoff action coming up in just about 28 minutes from now. The PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open, 609-403-0973. We got a lot of Eagles talk to get into before we get out of here. And I wanted to bring back for you that Barrett Brooks, not Brandon Brooks, Barrett Brooks, both played in the NFL, just different eras. Barrett Brooks on the Sports Bash yesterday because the further we get removed from the Eagles game on Sunday, not that it dies down any of the irrationality, because I think Twitter has proven today, because of the poll question we have, of how much craziness and how much bizarro worldness there is on Twitter right now. But the further we get removed, the more I'd like to emphasize that losing one game doesn't mean you lost the season. Losing one game can be fixed. Things can be corrected. You know, the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, there was an ugly loss to the Chiefs, and they learned from that game. Remember when the Eagles got destroyed by the Saints? How they got better after that game? How the Eagles got embarrassed by the Dolphins? How they got better after that game? There's nothing wrong with losing as long as you learn from your mistakes. And look at what the last 24 hours have yielded for the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, right now at 97.3 ESPN.com, we have the news up there. The Eagles now on their active roster have 6 guards. That's right. They added Sua Opeta to the active roster, and they've signed an NFL guard who has started 47 games in the NFL in Jamon Brown. And you get more details about both of those transactions for the Eagles right now on 97.3 ESPN.com and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. But I bring up those points because when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, every time there's been a bad moment in the team's season, they respond. They get better. They learn from it. It's when you don't learn from mistakes is the problem. And the Eagles have a track record of learning from those mistakes. The Eagles, not a specific player or a specific person, the Eagles team, the organization, learn from mistakes. And the reason I highlight that is because I saw the poll question from Mike Gill, Hunter Brody, earlier today. You can go to @973ESPN on Twitter to talk about. And there's a lot of people commenting on this poll question right now. And I'm glad the poll question is at least close because it allows for a little bit more dialogue. It allows for a little more conversation. If this was a blowout, I would just come on here and blast the voters and blast the poll and be done with it. The poll question. If the Eagles were to move on from one guy, Pederson or Wentz, which should it be? Right now, 59% are voting for Doug Pederson. 40% are voting for Carson Wentz. The interesting thing about this poll isn't just the comments below it that are absolute beautiful examples of how irrational people are, but also totally overlooks some of the voters of what it takes to win in the NFL. And I said this on Twitter earlier today, and I'm going to bring it up again right now here on Game Night, here on 97.3 ESPN. I am of the firm belief that it is easier to find players in the NFL than it is good coaching. It seems like every year now, quality starting quarterbacks are drafted every single year. It was just a couple of years ago that there were, 5, 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round? It was Baker Mayfield, it was Sam Darnold, it was Josh Allen, it was Josh Rosen, it was Lamar Jackson. Okay, it was 5. Well, of those 5 I just named, all of them except for one is starting in the NFL right now. And there's nobody out there listening to me right now who is of rational mind who is going to text into the text board at 609-403-0973 or at 973ESPN or at Josh Hennig on Twitter and say that all 4 of those quarterbacks who are starting right now from that draft shouldn't be starting. You would just be ruled out completely irrational, and I tell you to go take a long walk on a short pier. The reality is that you can find a quarterback now. The league has changed. You might not be able to always find a franchise quarterback, but the Rams got to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not an elite quarterback. Yes, having an elite quarterback will help you win a Super Bowl faster than not. When you think, though, through the quarterbacks since 2000 who have won multiple Super Bowls, here's the list. Since 2000, quarterbacks who have won multiple Super Bowls: Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning. The one thing that all of those guys have in common is that there's an argument to be made that they might be able to all be in the Hall of Fame. Aside from that, their situations are different. Their journey to the NFL is different. Their journey to become starters in the NFL is different. And then look at the quarterbacks who have won one Super Bowl. Guys like Nick Foles and Russell Wilson and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. These are some interesting names, right? Joe Flacco. You can win a championship without it being Patrick Mahomes under center. But nowhere do I believe that you can win a Super Bowl with a mediocre to average to okay kind of head coach, whatever label you want to use. If Doug Pederson wasn't the Eagles coach, I don't think the Eagles win a Super Bowl. I know. I have read it. I have heard it. I have seen it from people who've covered the team, from people who have been on the team. We've heard it again and again. The players have bought into Doug Pederson. The players have bought into him, his words, how he relates to them, how he listens to them. They didn't buy into Chip Kelly. Just like the Giants haven't bought into a single one of these guys who have walked in through those doors since Tom Coughlin left. You know, guys like Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur. The jury's still out on Joe Judge. Frankly, last night's game may have been more at the feet of Jason Garrett than Joe Judge. Considering the fact that Saquon Barkley had, 6 rushing yards total last night? You take one of the 5 best running backs in the league and he gets 6 rushing yards, I have trouble blaming anyone except for the offensive coordinator in that situation. It's hard to find good coaching. Speaking of Jason Garrett, how many years did all of us say if the Cowboys had a competent head coach, they might be able to go to the Super Bowl? Jason Garrett's no longer there. Now they have Mike McCarthy. How many times do we look at an organization and say, if the coach was different, they might have a chance? We say it all the time. We say it every single year. So to me, if I got to pick between Wentz and Pederson, I'm going to pick Pederson. And it's not because I hate Wentz. I'm a Wentz guy. I'm a borderline Wentz apologist since 2016. I've been ringing the bell for Carson Wentz from day one, before he was drafted. But guess what? It doesn't excuse the fact that Carson Wentz, for as talented as he is, how high his ceiling is, still has to reach his true potential. And because he is stubborn, and because he is not willing at times in the game, in the moment, to make the right decisions, that concerns me. It concerns me a lot. If Carson Wentz in year 5 hasn't figured out certain things, will he ever figure it out? Listen, we've seen quarterbacks later in their careers have rebirths and find themselves and take that next step. But the majority of the time, when a guy is drafted as high as Carson Wentz is, who has started as many games as Carson Wentz has, there's very little more room for him to grow beyond what he is. I'm not saying Carson Wentz can't get better. I'm not saying this past Sunday was a reflection of what he always will be. But what I am saying is, for as talented as he is, and as high of a football IQ as he has, I feel like there is another guy who could play that position who's as talented as he is out there. Again, quarterbacks are drafted every year. Who am I to say that if the Jets traded away Sam Darnold to the Eagles and Carson Wentz would go to the Jets, that Sam Darnold couldn't play better under Doug Pederson than Carson Wentz has? I don't know that, and neither do you. Sam Darnold is incredibly talented. Sam Darnold, some people thought, was the best quarterback in that draft. Some people think that Adam Gase is holding back Sam Darnold. Whatever the case is, if you gave Doug Pederson another talented quarterback of similar skill, intellect, and athleticism, you're telling me the Eagles can't go 10-6, 11-5, and make a Super Bowl run? To me, the coach in football matters more than any other sport. In basketball, it's hit or miss. In hockey, it's somewhat negligible, considering the fact that they fire coaches all the time. And it's more of like a firecracker than it is an actual stability situation. In baseball, I'm not even fully sure how much is really the manager and how much is the hitting coach and the pitching coach and the bench coach. I mean, realistically, was it really Joe Torre that was winning all those World Series, or was it the players in the field? I think it was the players in the field. Joe Torre was kind of along for the ride. He had Don Zimmer and Mel Stottlemyre, one of the best pitching coaches in baseball, next to him. Kind of helps you out. Great players help too in baseball. It's still a team sport. And to me, the football coach has a greater impact on a team than any of the other sports. The big four: baseball, football, basketball, hockey. It's not a coincidence that year in and year out a team makes a turnaround when new head coach is brought in. It happens every year in the NFL. There's a reason why year after year a team that misses the playoffs makes the playoffs the next year. Because head coach matters. Because stability matters. And I don't want to see the Eagles start recycling through coaches just because you got to find the right combination for Wentz. Maybe at some points, Wentz isn't the problem. Maybe at some point, Wentz is the problem. But either way, I'm more confident I can find another Wentz than I am that I can find another Doug Pederson. You can vote right now at 973 ESPN on Twitter. The poll question was put up earlier by Mike Gill and Hunter Brody. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. Of course, we are only here for a half hour. Game Night will be followed by Heat-Celtics Game 1 today on 97.3 ESPN. Game Night is being brought to you by GMS Law. Make the right call with 4 convenient locations to serve you. Visit them online at gmslaw.com. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open, 609-403 0973. That's 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Josh Hennig here, counting you down to Celtics-Heat coming up next right here on 97.3 ESPN. Of course, Game Night being brought to you by Matt Blackie, and Matt Blackie wants to get you approved today. That's Matt Blackie on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. I'll give you my whatever it's worth pick for the Celtics-Heat game. I definitely got the game wrong the other night. I said the Raptors were going to beat the Celtics. I was wrong. You know what I did get right? Pretty exciting. How about a 6-2 weekend in football? Hope you guys took some of my picks this weekend. Steelers covered the -6 last night. Ravens covered the -7 on Sunday. Bucs Saints went over 47.5. How about the college? How about Coastal Carolina? I said they would cover the 6.5. They outright beat Kansas. I mean, I didn't think that was going to happen. That was ridiculous. Of course, I was wrong about Kansas State. Man, bad weekend for the Big 12. Whew. I thought Kansas State had a good defense. Kansas State defense didn't show up on Saturday. Oh, my goodness. Still a good weekend, though, 6-2. A winning weekend's always a good weekend. Always put a little smile on your face when you see the earnings add up in your account on the Sportsbook app. You know what I mean? A little extra pep in your step the next day. Little NBA news just dropped a little bit ago. The all-rookie teams were announced, for those who may not have seen this. No Sixer made the team, so no Matisse Thybulle on the team. Although I can't say I'm not too surprised, considering who made the team. Your NBA all-rookie team includes John Morant, Kendrick Nunn, Zion Williamson, Brandon Clark, and Eric Paschal on the first team. Second team is Kobe White, Tyler Hero, Terrence Davis, P.J. Washington, and Rui Hachimura. So I'm not really surprised considering whose names are on the team that Matisse Thybulle didn't make it. I'm sure there's a handful of Sixers people who will probably debate that somebody on this list doesn't deserve it, but those people are either just diehard Sixer fans, diehard Matisse Thybulle fans, or they don't watch the rest of the NBA. Because you know who was really good when I watched him? Hachimura. That guy's a player. And Brandon Clark, he's got a nice future ahead of him. There's some good players in the NBA, man. Not saying any of them are superstars or any of them is going to be next Jimmy Butler, who's coming up in about 7 minutes from now, but some really, really good players. Really good players in the NBA today. PlaySugarHouse.com text board is open, 609-403-0973. Speaking of the game coming up next, I think the Celtics win the series. I think the Celtics just have more talent than the Heat do. I think it'd be a cool story if Butler made the finals. It would be a great, story. It could maybe be a 30 for 30 one day about Jimmy Butler's career, an addendum to the deal. Be pretty fun. But I just don't see it. I think Boston has too much firepower between Tatum and Brown and Walker. I mean that guy Grant Williams coming off the bench is playing really well. Marcus Smart has had some incredible games in these playoffs. I think the problem for the Heat is that there's such a team-oriented squad that outside of Butler, they don't have a guy who can get his own shot. They have a lot of catch-and-shoot guys like Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, whether it's a guy like Kendrick Nunn now coming off the bench. Bam Adebayo is a great all-around player, but he's not an elite take-over-the-game kind of player. Tatum can take over a game. Jaylen Brown at times can take over games. Kemba Walker can take over a game. I think the Celtics have 3 guys and the Heat have 1 guy. And I think I'm going to go with the team that has the 3 guys over the team with the 1 guy. But I'm going to go Celtics in 7 games. I think the Heat win a couple games just by pure sheer will, and the Celtics might struggle for 1 game because there have been a couple games they've shot pretty horribly from 3 in these playoffs. So I'm going to go Celtics in 7. There you go. And then, of course, the other NBA game tonight is the Nuggets and Clippers. I'm only picking Clippers because the Clippers have Kawhi. I just feel like Kawhi is such an I can make an argument that Kawhi is the best player in the NBA. I don't personally think so, but I think you can make the argument. He's in the conversation with a handful of other guys. He's that incredible of a two-way player. Let's get some text board messages in here before we get out of here. 609-403-0973. Texter says, you can't find another Wentz. You're crazy. Coaches can get changed. You still have teams looking for a franchise quarterback. Obviously, you didn't hear fully what I said. There are quality starting quarterbacks drafted every year. I'm not saying you're going to find another Wentz. I'm saying you could find another quarterback. There are quality quarterbacks up and down the entire league. If you swap Wentz with some of these other quarterbacks around the league, Matt Ryan won a league MVP, did he not? Deshaun Watson, he wasn't even the first quarterback picked in his own draft. That was Mitch Trubisky. Remember that? The best quarterback from the draft a couple of years ago is Lamar Jackson. He was found at the end of the first round. In fact, the Ravens traded up into the first round to get him. Right now, he's the best quarterback from that draft. You can find other quarterbacks. But how many guys who are head coaches who are winning not just championships, but getting you back to the playoffs with beat-up, broken-down rosters each and every year? You know who couldn't get back to the playoffs after he won a Super Bowl? Brian Billick. You know what guy struggled to get back to the playoffs after winning a Super Bowl? John Gruden. You know what guy couldn't even replicate any close to success he had with the Colts when he had Peyton Manning? That was Jim Caldwell with the Lions. Doug Pederson has gotten back to the playoffs with the skeleton crew after injuries for now 2 years. I don't think you can find many coaches who can do that. That's why I'm saying I'll take the coach, Pederson, over Wentz. I'm not saying you can easily find a franchise quarterback. And frankly, the Eagles are run better as a franchise than the Bengals, the Browns, the Lions, should I keep going, the Bears. These organizations are not run as well as the Eagles. That's part of the difference as well. 609-403-0973. I got to check out the one text that came in. Text says, yeah, you got 3 out of your 4 picks right in college. I did. At least somebody listens. It's always a nice thing. I guess it's a backhanded compliment the way you wrote down the text, though. Joey D from Bender, I'm just messing with you. I appreciate you jumping on. Listen, if I can help you guys make some money, I'm more than happy to do it. I just feel way more confident in my football picks than in my basketball picks. I think that's fair to say. Rhodes knows hockey better than I do. I would venture to say that Mike Gill gets way more basketball picks right than compared to me. Football's my strength. UFC's my strength. I still think the Celtics are going to win the series. We'll find out. Coming up next, Game 1. Celtics, Heat, right here on 97.3 ESPN. Catch you tomorrow.